All right, mathletes, here's our Unit 4 test review. So starting off, we're given factored form, so I'm going to go ahead and just write that over here in factored form. And here we go. All right, so that tells us a couple things right from the start. So that tells us our zeros. All right, so our zeros are down here. Sorry, I couldn't find them. So that's opposite of -3. So we've got a 0 at 3 and a 0 at 1. I'm going to go ahead and just graph those. So here's my 0 at 1. Here's my 0 at 3. Hopefully you guys have gone, oh, that means that my vertex, the x value of my vertex has to be between those, which means it has to be at a 2. There are lots of ways to do this. I'm hoping that you guys are plugging this into your calculator and letting your calculator help as well. But I'm just going to kind of walk you through some steps that I took. All right. So if I know that the middle there is going to be 2, I also know my axis of symmetry is 2. And we can go ahead and just plug that in to find our y value. So I'm going to plug that in and go -2 minus 3, 2 minus 1. All right, and that's going to get us a value of 1. So my vertex is at 2, 1, which is going to be right here. So we can already tell that's going to open down. We know that from the negative out front as well. So that's going to open us down. And now that we have the vertex, we can do our vertex form. So we can say that it's y equals a is still -1. And my x is 2, so I'm going to say x minus 2 squared positive 1. So there's our vertex form. We all know that the domain is going to be -infinity to infinity. It's opening down, so I'm falling and falling. It's opening down, so I start with my -infinity on my range, and I stop at my y value of the vertex. So we can do all this at this point. We don't have standard form yet, so I'm going to skip the y-intercept. I know this is going to be a maximum because we're opening down. So we've got vertex form, we've got factored form. All right, increasing. We can go left to right, so we're going to go -infinity all the way to our x value of the vertex at 2. Then it turns around and decreases from 2 to infinity. All right, standard form I'm going to get by distributing through. So I'm going to go -x minus 3, x minus 1. So I'm just going to distribute the negative first. -x plus 3 times x minus 1. So that will be -x squared, positive x, positive 3x, and -3. So my standard form is y equals -x squared plus 4x minus 3. So we've got that, which means that we now have the y-intercept at 0, -3. We can plot that. And then I'm going to reflect across my axis of symmetry. All right. So there's number 1 for us. Looking at number 2, we are given standard form. So I'm going to write that out. Standard form, crushed it, which means we have our y-intercept at 0, 24. We're going to have a hard time graphing that one. That's all right. We'll just pretend like we know it. It's there. Guys, I would really recommend, especially on standard form, that you go ahead and graph these and get your vertex and your zeros. That's going to help you a lot. We can do it by hand. The way I'm going to do it by hand is I'm going to factor. So I see this, x squared minus 10x plus 24, and I see I can do my shortcut, x squared. So I need what multiplies to 24. They can add or subtract to -10. And I can put that into factored form. So what multiplies to -24 would be 6 and 4, and they both have to be negatives in order to get to -10. So that's how I would handle getting us to factored form from standard form, if possible. So now that I have factored form, I know some zeros. I know x is 6 and x is 4. So I'm going to go ahead and plot those. Which again, we should know in the middle is going to be our vertex. So between 4 and 6 is 5. So we now know the x value of our vertex is 5, which tells us the axis of symmetry also 5. So if you didn't put this into your calculator and get the maximum or minimum, we'll just go ahead and keep doing it by hand, but I would definitely suggest using your calculator. So I'm going to plug in 5 here. Y is 5 squared minus 10 times 5 plus 24. And that is going to get us -1. So my vertex is at 5, -1 right there. And you see that little opening starting to happen. So we're going to open up. We also know that because A is positive. Now that we have our vertex, we can keep our positive A. We're going to go x minus 5 squared minus 1 as our vertex form. Now we should be able to do everything else here. So we got all 3 forms. Domain is always this. End behavior left and right, we're opening up. So anytime we're opening up, we're rising and rising. If we're opening up, we always start with the vertex and go up to the positive infinities. We're opening up, so it's a minimum. You guys know we're opening up now, yeah? So it starts with decreasing if we're opening up, so negative infinity all the way to that x value of 5. Then it turns around 5 to infinity increase. We can't draw our y-intercept because it is not graphed high enough. That's okay. We'll just go ahead and leave it like that. All right, here we go on the next problem. Yes, we're going down with a slope of 1 still. So remember, hint A is -1. So a couple things. I would always pull my vertex first. That's my favorite move. So -3, 4 is our vertex, which tells us our vertex form. So we can go ahead and handle our vertex form. Y equals -1 for my A, x plus 3 plus 4. Don't forget to switch. All right, vertex form is handled. We are opening down. We know the domain. And we're falling because we're opening down. Range, opening down, is going negative infinity to our y value on the vertex. Y-intercept, we're not quite there yet, but we're going to have a maximum. Well, you guys see our zeros here. Our zeros are at -1 and -5. So let's go ahead and do our factored form. So A is still -1, but my zeros get us to x plus 1 and x plus 5. Sorry, my handwriting is bad right now. All right, and let's go axis of symmetry. We know the vertex, so all we need is the x value of that. Increasing, we start with the increasing from negative infinity all the way to -3, and then it turns around and starts to drop from -3 on. So last thing we need is standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute through. That is really bad. Sorry about the handwriting. So I'm going to distribute through. I'm going to do it a different way this time, and I'm going to leave that negative till the last move. So x squared plus 5x plus 1x plus 5. I'm going to put together my like terms. And then I'm just going to go ahead and distribute that negative through. So y equals -x squared minus 6x minus 5 for our standard form here. That's going to handle that problem. Oh, y-intercept, classic. Well, we just found it. -5 from our C value right there. All right, let's keep moving here through your key Now this says change this by completing the square. We did not teach you how to do that, so we're going to change it a different way. We want it to be in the vertex equation, so that means I need the vertex. I know A is 1, so if I can find the vertex, I'm good. Put it in your calculator. Use your second trace minimum, because this is a minimum. Find the vertex that way. But if you are set on doing it by hand, I will show you. We're going to do x equals negative b over 2a. So we're going to get x equals negative 8 over 2 times 1, which gets us negative 4 for our x value. So we are halfway through on the vertex. Now I'm going to plug that in. Y equals negative 4 squared plus 8 times a negative 4 plus 14. And that is going to get us negative 2 for our y value. So now that I have that, I can tell you that my vertex form is y equals 1 times x plus 4, because we got to switch it, squared minus 2. Boom, in vertex form. All right, this one says take that vertex equation and put it into standard. Just algebra. All right, so we're going to handle this first. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, says exponents happen before multiplication and addition. So we're going to have negative 2 is x minus 3 twice plus 4. So we're going to handle the parentheses first. X squared minus 3x plus 9. So I'm going to go ahead and just make that negative 3 minus 3. I'm going to make that negative 6x after combining like terms. Now I still have the negative 2 I have to multiply through and then add 4 at the very end. So I'm going to multiply through negative 2x squared, positive 12x, negative 18 plus 4. There's your like terms here. So that tells you our standard form is negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 14. All right, make sure you guys are asking questions and visiting us to get ready for your Unit 4 test. Good luck.